else I basically had to come up with on my own. For the other tracks in the soundtrack, I was usually given a complete composition by another person on the sound team, and then I arranged that so into what you hear in the game, basically.
Well, there you go. There's a practical example of the difference between composing and arranging.
Yep.
All right, next question. Right, what made you decide to go with this particular style of music for Pocket Mirror exactly?
Well, in my head, it made the most sense, kind of, given the setting that had already been established for the game itself. And when I first joined the project, the only piece of music that had been composed for the game was a rough draft of the main theme, which was composed by As Reflux. At that point, it was just a simple chiptune style composition, and I was tasked with arranging it for the game. So I chose some orchestral instruments, I arranged the track, I sent it to Kira for feedback, and he thought that it was that kind of music that would be most suitable for the game. So that kind of set the basis for how I would arrange and compose future works for the game.
I see. Um, let's move to the release of Pocket Mirror, now that we're done with the kind of production. What were you expecting regarding Pocket Mirror's release and public reception, and how does it compare to what really happened?
Well, I was really sure that a lot of people would enjoy it, but at the same time, I also knew that it wouldn't quite be everyone's cup of tea, because the kind of storytelling that's in Pocket Mirror with a heavy focus on symbolism and all that stuff, it's not necessarily for everyone. And I've seen some people complain about it. It's nothing big, but um, I personally think that it's the best way to tell the story of this particular game, but naturally not everyone is going to enjoy that. Uh, but I I pretty much correctly anticipated that there would be a lot of praise for the game's aesthetics, because
Oh
I do
yeah.
think that those stand out quite well from your average RPG Maker game, especially when you consider the cutscenes, because I don't think there's many RPG Maker productions out there that have, full-blown cutscenes like Pocket Mirror does.
Yep.
I haven't seen any, at least, or not that many. But overall, it got more or less the perception that I anticipated, and I mean, I'm especially glad that people seem to enjoy the music I made, because it was my first time writing for a game, so it's quite reassuring that people liked it.
Yeah, it must be a big relief hearing that people enjoy what you did for the game.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So we kind of already answered half of the next question, but were you expecting the game to take off like it did? And what was your initial reaction when it released? Were you stressed, nervous, relieved? What did you feel?
Well, I was, of course, very excited about it. I knew that a lot of people were anticipating it. But one thing is that I think the timing of the release kind of affected the popularity of it. Because back when the demo was released, that there
Oh
was
yeah.
enormous Pocket Mirror hype. It was, in my opinion, much, much larger than it was when the full game was released. And I think that kind of has to do with the fact that after the demo, the production of the game was kind of in limbo for close to a year, since we were lacking a programmer, I think. So we didn't really make a lot of progress on the game. But I'm definitely not disappointed in the game's current popularity. It's definitely got a lot more attention than most RPG Maker games, and that's, really rare for a game that started out the way Pocket Mirror did, in my opinion.
Well, have you ever asked yourself how it would be received by the community if it released right after the demo, or at least a little earlier? Because that would
Well,
be, I think, interesting since you've already
yeah,
told us about the huge hype that was here after the demo.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that it would be easier for it to like establish very quickly as, a fandom or whatever. I saw with the release that we had now that the game kind of, okay, it released, it got a lot of attention, and then it kind of died down. I think if we would have released it back then, it would have had an easier time basically sustaining that attention and leveraging it into, you know, a bigger fandom community, whatever you want to call
True.
it. Yeah.
But I think in these days, the bigger YouTube channels that cover games like that kind of make up for losses of hype like that, because they create a lot of hype for certain games, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I've seen some Let's Players with like hundreds of thousands of subscribers playing Pocket Mirror, and you know that definitely helps raise the popularity
Yeah.
of the game, raise awareness. So you know that's really really cool in my opinion.
How about we talk about your team next, Astral Shift? How did you guys meet and how did you work together? Since you're
Uh,
international, basically.
yeah. Well, I can't speak for the entire team, but I personally found the Pocket Mirror blog on Tumblr pretty shortly after it was made and the first couple of posts were made, and I saw that they were looking for help. So I created a quick demo track and I sent it to the email that they had on the blog, and you know, the rest is history, I guess. I mean, they accepted my demo and asked me to join the team. And I think that's how some other members got on the team as well. I think some of them are just Kira's friends that he just recruited, but you know, we're from all parts of the world, so it's pretty cool just working together like that.
Yeah, it's crazy to see an international team like that work together and finish something amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Because you,
how did you guys work at all? Like, did you use Skype to communicate or did you meet IRL? Because I've heard from at least the Portuguese part of the team that they met in real life a couple of times.
yeah, because you know the Portuguese part of the team. I think they're already friends. You know, prior to this project, kind of. I think most of them are. But the whole team in general for Pocket Mirror, we just had like a big Skype group chat room and a Google Drive folder full of design documents and resources and so on. And for my work process, it was pretty simple. Kira would basically contact me about songs that needed to be done for the game, and he would give me a description of the scene, the mood, maybe give me some reference images, anything that I would need to create something that fits. And then I would make a draft and I would send it to Kira for feedback. And with this feedback, I would create a new draft. And then that process would kind of repeat until we had a track that worked for the game.
So I guess in your case, a lot of work went through Kira's filter, so to say.
Yeah. I mean, Kira and Evil Hairbrush, I mean, they were basically managing everyone. They were just project managers. So I think pretty much everything in the game, you know, had to go through them. And they would have to say, hey, yeah, this is our vision for the game. This fits what we want to show in the game. So they had final say on pretty much everything.
Nice. So there you go. There's some insight on how indie games are created and how indie devs work.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the horror part of the show, since this is a horror marathon and all. What makes horror in your opinion? What are the most important aspects to create a good or at least a working horror scenario?
I think, in my opinion, horror games are the best when they can convey horror simply through the game's setting rather than, you know, techniques like jump scares or, you know, that stuff that's really popular right now. Um, and if I were to give an example, I would say that the Corpse Party series of games is probably the best I can think of when it comes to horror game design because, you know, they do exactly that. You know, the art, the sound design, the scenario, the gameplay, they all come together to create that, you know, certain feeling that horror games should convey. So I think, you know, that's what horror is to me.
So, to sum it up, to you horror is not just one thing, but a bunch of things that kind of make up a, well, let's say, scary atmosphere.
Exactly.
And Corpse Party mentioned as a good example.
Yeah, have you played that or?
I've played it, but I have not finished it.
Okay, okay.
So it might be one for the stream.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, I don't know how many games there are in the series, but I played one of the, like, I think I played the first one on the PSP, and it was just, I was like completely immersed, and it was, I'm usually not a fan of horror games, which is kind of weird considering that I'm working on, horror game music and all that. But I really, really enjoyed that game. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. So that was a cool experience for me.
Well, do you have any tips for aspiring musicians that may be hidden in chat?
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, I would say just keep making stuff, and I get that that's a common tip and everything, but really the best way to learn is to practice a lot, and there's no way around that. And specifically for maybe game design, game music designers, composers, whatever, I would say try to explore as many different kinds of music as you can and learn their distinguishing musical elements. Because if you are to become a game music producer, you need to be familiar with all kinds of genres, since you'll be expected to produce many different kinds of music.
Long story short, don't ever stop the grind.
Exactly. Stay on that grind.
Nice. I think, do you still have some time for questions from chat? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I already have a good one from someone you might know. Yuzuki Masu asks, how do I write music?
Oh, that's a good question. I wouldn't know. I've never written music before. Well, how do I write music? I just like play notes on my keyboard until something makes sense. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I just try to sketch stuff out in my head or on a keyboard, MIDI keyboard, whatever, and then I just put that into a composition once I have something, that works. So that's how I write music. I don't know how other people are supposed to do it, but that's my process.
Well, there you go, Yuzuki. Maybe start mashing the keyboard some more.
Exactly.
Okay, let's wait for some more questions. I think there should be enough people in chat who are kind of interested in you and your work. Oh, Miguel Murka asks, how to handle post-project depression?
That's a tough question. I mean, start on the next one. That's the easiest way, I would say, because, once you have something done, that's like a good feeling and everything. But if you just ride off the high of having something completed, then, you're never gonna get anywhere in life. So you just gotta keep working and, try not to get caught up in previous projects. Just keep going.
Continue the grind.
Exactly. That's all it boils down to.
Dr. Ermelin asks, I read you did make games. Anything worth mentioning?
Well, not really. I've never actually published a game that I've made. I've mostly just been experimenting from a young age in RPG Maker, just making very, very basic games. The biggest thing I've made would be a game that I made for, it was a high school project, and I wanted to, make game music, so I just made a really generic RPG Maker game with a very basic story and everything, just so I had an excuse to make game music. So the game itself is shit, but the music's pretty good. So
That's something, at least.
yeah.
So, someone you might know called Ivy asks, Hi Mango, I love you. How do I get over my hate of Fruity Loop Studio?
Well, Ivy, I love you too. And FL Studio is, I would say that it's pretty easy to get into, but I get that it's not the kind of workflow that works for everyone. But I mean, I had problems with it starting out as well, back when I was using it in like 2007, 2008. But I just kept working at it, and after doing a lot of work in it, stuff just started clicking in my head, and then it just turned into a useful program for me because I can do a lot of stuff in it now.
There you go, Ivy. Another question from Hermelin. Mango, with you being an artist, yeah, right, Kappa, are you able to keep yourself fed with it? Or do you need a job while doing your thing?
Well, see, the wonderful thing about being a student in Sweden is that the government literally gives you free money just for being a student. So far I haven't had to think about starving on the streets yet, but eventually I don't really see myself making a living off of doing music unless, a miracle happens. But I I think that it's something that I can keep as a side thing, kind of maybe make a little bit of money on the side. But that's this is why I'm studying to be a systems tester because there's a lot of opportunities for that right now. So I will try to do that, get myself some money so I can keep doing music.
Time to move to Sweden.
Exactly.
Mr. Fag asks, when does the next plane to Sweden leave?
Well,
JK.
I mean, depends on where you live. There's probably ones departing every day. So just come over here, have some fun.
Let's hear one more question from chat. Let's make it a good one, chat. Try to think a lot. Try
Yeah,
to
chat.
think real hard.
Please. I need a good question.
In the meantime, why not ask? What do you think about the Halloween update for Overwatch?
Well, I've had a chance to play like the the brawl and stuff, the whole survival thing. I think it's pretty fun. I haven't had the chance to try it with friends yet. I've only like solo queued and ended up with people, but it's pretty fun. I like the new skins. There's no Mei skin. That really sucks. Blizzard, please. Please, Blizzard. But overall, I think it's pretty good.
Who do you play in Overwatch? Or who do you like best?
Uh, I pretty much main support when I play, ranked because nobody else plays support in ranked, and I've been doing pretty well with that. I usually play either Mercy or Senjata, um, but I do like Roadhog. He's probably my favorite non-support.
Nice. Okay, here's a good one. I think that's a good one and interesting one. Ivy asks, how does YouTube poop influence your work? I think you did some YouTube poops earlier
Yeah,
on YouTube,
yeah.
right?
That's how I basically started out making content, building a fan base. Um, I think, I mean, there's this subgenre of YouTube poop, which is called YouTube poop music videos, where you just, take clips from whatever and just sync it up with music, and basically create songs using, whatever video you've got. And that really got me started with, learning music, learning timing, learning very basic music theory and things like that. And I think that gave me a pretty good basis for starting on producing my own music. So I guess that it's influenced me quite a lot. So that's pretty cool in my opinion.
Interesting start for a musical career, though, if you ask me.
Definitely, yeah.
Like, that's one for the resume.
Yeah, ex YouTube pooper.
Well, I think one quick question, maybe. What do you think about song collabs on YouTube? From Mr. Fag.
Song collabs, like what would that mean specifically?
He didn't specify.
Oh, I guess I'm not sure. I know that there are like because I know that there's like a group of people who do these song collabs, but I'm not quite sure what actually goes into making those. I guess it's just producers and vocalists teaming up and uploading stuff on YouTube, like arranges of whatever. But I think musicians collaborating online in general is really cool. So, oh, was answered already. Okay, well, whatever then. But
Okay
it's
then.
it's cool, I guess.
Well, what about your upcoming projects? Is there anything to talk about? Perhaps something about LGTS? Lil Goody Two Shoes, for all that don't know.
My voice broke there.
No
I was
biggie.
hoping to release an album of my own after Pocket Mirror and all that was done, But since we're already kind of starting to work on LGTS, and because that project is going to be several times more ambitious than Pocket Mirror, I won't really have time for any of my own work. And as for when you can hear more about LGTS, I can't really say for sure. I can say that we're already hard at work, setting up the foundation for the game, and hopefully it won't take, 3 years to produce as Pocket Mirror did, but no promises.
Now that you've earned yourself a bunch of fans, that would be nice to finish. Maybe a little earlier.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's end this with some shoutouts and where we can reach you on social media. Feel free to post
Alright,
links
well,
also.
Yeah, will do. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to the rest of Astral Shift, because getting to work with such motivated and talented people is such a huge honor, so I can't really thank them all enough for that. And also shout out to my girlfriend Ivy, who's in the chat, for being so supportive always. Love you very much. For social media, you can find me on Twitter at McMangos1. And if you're interested in checking out my non-Pocket Mirror music, you can listen to it on my Bandcamp page, which is McMangos at Bandcamp, not at Bandcamp, McMangos.bandcamp.com, or my SoundCloud page, which is soundcloud.com/McMangos. And that's all I had to say, I guess.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today, Mangos. It was
Thanks
super
for
fun
having me.
talking
This
to
was
you. Well, any last words, perhaps?
Well, this was fun. This was good. Hope you do more of these in the future, because I would love to hear people get interviewed like this. I think it's really cool.
I'll try my best.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and well, have a good one.
Yeah, same to you. See you later.
See ya. And to chat, see you guys too. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking by, even though we had some technical difficulties. Pardon my French and my bad pronunciation sometimes, and do follow if you enjoyed this stream, cause there will be more coming. See you guys soon, and stay fresh.